Same.
I found out you can hit it and make a sweet little gong.
All right. 3, 2, 1. Go.
All right, folks. Welcome to the Left, the Right, the Absurd. The first question y'all are probably gonna have is, what the fuck happened? So we all went on a hiatus for a while, as you guys probably noticed, all 5 of you. But we are officially on our way to getting back into the swing of things. Life has slowed down a little bit for all of us, and
If you watch our videos, you'll notice that over time we have less and less, and we started to have less and less people on each week until it got to the point where there was just like 3 of us.
and
And at that point we
it
just said,
seemed,
nah.
Yeah. So right now we've got 4 of us tonight. The plan is to start bringing some people back, possibly get more people on. Definitely going to be working on doing guest appearances, stuff like that, because as we noticed last time when we had like the debate episode, stuff like that, it really drew a lot of people out. So more stuff like that, keep you guys entertained while still keeping on topic. Tonight we're just going to do something really basic. We wanted to get the discussion of the hiatus out of the way first. And then we're just going to be talking about a ton of like
stupid shit,
current happenings.
This country has seen
stuff
some
like
shit
that
since the last time we've done an episode of this. So there's a ton of stuff we can talk about.
I mean, to put it in most perspective, Trump is a possible candidate for winning the presidential election.
Worse than that is Trump is not just possible, it's almost likely.
I've read polls that say that Trump is a little bit behind Hillary, but like only by 11 points. So
can we
Yeah,
I was gonna say, can we bash Trump supporters or maybe Hillary supporters? I mean, with Trump supporters, it's so damn easy.
Yeah,
It's not nice to make fun of retards, man.
Oh, I know.
Hey, no, I thought we made it okay to do that when we elected Bush.
Yeah,
Twice, mind you.
Oh yeah, that's the worst part. It wasn't even just once.
Since I live in Florida, where I live is like between conservatism and liberalism. So for every 5 Trump signs you'll see at least 3 or 4 Hillary signs.
And now, what really irritates me is average Trump supporter signs in yards are apparently a good estimate to determine who is going to win an election, because of course every poll is rigged. So how do we determine?
No. Every poll except the ones that show Trump ahead.
Yeah. Oh, I've actually even seen that. I've actually seen someone say that every poll is rigged, other than the ones that Trump is winning. Like, I'm not even like this. I'm not making that up. I know it sounds like it could be satire, but I've seen someone actually state that.
The country's fucked, man.
Like, I mean, you can't just say, "Hey, look at these rallies and see the difference in people." Well, that's all great and all. That's fine, but at the end of the day, what the polls show is a much better estimate as to what's going to happen.
And just because people show up at rallies doesn't mean they're necessarily there to support the candidate.
Yeah, and just because some people don't show up at certain rallies doesn't mean they don't support candidate X.
Yeah. I mean, it costs money to go to rallies.
You got to look at how many Democratic debates have been interrupted by Bernie, still clinging to hope Bernie supporters.
Yeah, which, I mean, that's got to die too.
Man.
Like, Bernie lost, all right?
I mean, they're still better than Rand supporters.
Didn't Bernie Sanders spend his campaign money on a new house?
I hope he did.
No.
I really hope he
That'd
did.
be
just
hilarious.
So people stop saying, "Well, no, he's not really a sellout. He just, no." But at this point in the election, at this point, man, the only justified reason for voting for either candidate is you don't want the other one. If you honestly
That-
support Trump or
that's-
Hillary, you're fucking retarded.
Yeah, the thing about voting against other candidates, though, that's kind of what happened when Obama got elected the second time, because a lot of people are voting against Palin. So.
Right. But I mean,
It is Sarah Palin.
Yeah, that's what at least that's what my dad and my mother did. They voted against Palin, not for Obama.
Yeah.
and
Of course,
yeah, that's
I wasn't of age to vote, so I didn't really.
Every
I
4
was. I
years,
just didn't do it.
I listen to George Carlin's little bit about voting, and it's just a nice refresher.
Yeah, like
Shit they
just
shuffle around every 4 to 8 years. Meaningless.
every time I go on Facebook, or even just any website, like social media website that has advertising space, I get a little ad. It's like, would you like to register to vote? There's only X amount of time left. And I
Yeah,
always
I'm not
click
registered
no.
either. I refuse to even register.
Yeah, working the job I work, I'm out in like the city a lot, and it's not uncommon for the people that do like stand out on street corners to register people to vote. It's not uncommon for them to ask me, "Oh, are you registered to vote?" And
Do you just say no?
I always tell them the same thing. They say no. And the follow-up question is always, "Oh, would you like to sign up to vote?" I'm like,
No.
that.
I could get like earlier in the year, but at this point, if you're not registered, chances are you probably don't want to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I've had this several opportunities to fully register, like at the DMV online, and every opportunity that there is, I just say no.
Yeah.
And I really hate the line that a lot of liberals take, saying, if you don't vote, you don't have the right to complain. And that points back to George Carlin.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if you do vote, you have no right to complain. Put the fuckers there.
Like, I didn't do that.
I'm not the one supporting a broken two-party system, man.
Speaking of
Gary Johnson?
What is Aleppo?
What is Aleppo?
Speaking of two-party systems, I've been more like seeing more exposure for third-party candidates this election than I have in the past.
Oh, dude.
Jill
Yeah.
Stein and
Like
Gary Johnson.
Jill Stein, Gary Johnson, even the presidential candidate from the Socialist Party, I've had a lot of exposure to, probably because I'm friends with him on Facebook.
But dude,
See,
Yeah.
next election we might actually have a third-party candidate. I think this is going to be the one where people are like, okay, come on, guys. Come on.
Yeah.
like, and again, like, I'm not a fan really of Gary Johnson, but I would still like to see him in the debates at least. Same with Jill Stein. Not a huge fan of Jill Stein.
Yeah,
I'd like to see her in the debates.
I mean, maybe we can get really lucky if he's in the debates and they can ask him a second question about Aleppo.
Like, isn't that what Ron Paul did at least? Wasn't he like part of the Libertarian Party? Then he ran on the Republican Party platform so he would have a chance at getting in office.
Yeah, I believe so.
Yes. Well, that's supposedly what Bernie was doing, even though he legitimately is just a fucking Democrat.
Yeah, he's
He's a
just
Democrat that's a little further left.
Yeah, like I've heard this a lot. He's just an edgy Democrat.
Yeah, he's not a sellout because he never claimed to be anything other than that.
I'm still surprised that people are surprised, though.
Yeah.
Like,
Bernie supported Hillary, and I actually knew people that were like, "Oh man, that's so disappointing." It's like
I remember seeing a video on Facebook about the Democratic Party and the nominations, and a lot of people were voting for Bernie and all that. And when they found out that Hillary got the nomination, they just straight up asked him, "Do you feel like your vote counted?" And they all said no. And the guy says like, so.
Well, it's just like a... Oh, Jesus. I can't even remember his name. Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz finally folded and endorsed Trump.
Yeah, he did actually. Yeah, that's true.
I actually didn't know that.
See,
Yeah.
now I'm actually curious as to what Glenn Beck will. I can't believe I just said that. I actually just said that I was curious to see what Glenn Beck had to say about something.
Oh
Man,
boy.
that's sad. Okay,
We're
but I
reaching-
was actually genuinely curious as to see what Glenn Beck has to say, because Beck basically put Cruz up as some sort of god. Like, he was like literally talking about how Ted Cruz was like sent from God to run. So like now, and like, I mean, Beck pretty much hates Trump, and he absolutely loves Cruz. So I'd love to see what he has to say about that. He's probably
What
gonna
is-
cry on camera and break down because
Since
he's
like, well, I
losing
don't
his
have
fucking mind.
cable, so I don't have the enjoyment to go to Fox and watch Bill O'Reilly. Have any of you
man, you
seen
can
what
find
Bill
it on
O'Reilly
YouTube.
has been saying?
No.
And
No.
No.
and I really don't want to look up Bill O'Reilly on YouTube because my recommendations have already been fucked enough.
Oh, I know. I get most of my recommendations now are Alex Jones.
Watch one video about Alex Jones, then you get 1,000 more from him, and then watch one video about feminism. Even if it's in support of feminism, I get 1,000 videos from Wrecked Feminist Channel. Or
Oh, Sargon of Akkad is always on my. And it's like I swear to God, I've clicked on his video about accident like one time.
like, I don't know.
That's how the algorithm works, my dudes.
If Sargon of Akkad is watching, hi, you're stupid, and you should stop making videos.
Or just focus on history. Just do history. Just go do something you actually know about, you know?
It's just
Or just don't do anything and possibly just like become a plant.
Just go get some potting soil and just sit down, put it on your legs, and maybe it'll take root. You never know.
yeah.
No, you have to be a full blown potato and bury yourself alive.
Speaking of dumb YouTubers, I know I brought this up before the call, but Rocking Mr. E and his butt buddy Scotty M.
Oh, God. Scotty M. Scotty M is almost worse. But
I'm no communist, I'll tell you right now. Okay. His videos are...
I just can't take him seriously.
Like, I'm sure he's
Like-
he's well intentioned, and I'm sure he's advocated for what he's like. But
Any of you guys want to talk about the upcoming Kratom ban?
yeah, fuck.
Because that's kind of interesting. I don't think it's gotten a lot of coverage.
I think it's kind of a ridiculous notion that they're putting something that actually helps people with an opiate
now,
dependency.
that's going beyond, like, how pot is illegal and stuff. They're going out of their way to make something... I mean, like, you know, pot's been Schedule 1. This is still Schedule 1? Jesus Christ, have they changed it?
No, it's still Schedule 1.
See, you know what? It wouldn't even be bad if they just changed how they define scheduling. You know, if they just said, okay, we're not going to let you do this, regardless of what it does for you. It would almost be better than them lying and saying, okay, these have no health benefits and have no medical use. And it's like...
The reason that they're doing it mainly is, I think, pharmaceutical companies, because while it is possible to recreationally use Kratom, a lot of people, like I had already stated, use it for opiate addiction. And because of that, Big Pharma's response to opiate addiction is to feed you methadone, which is just another form of opiate.
Yeah.
So I found this is kind of interesting. On the Department of Justice Drug Enforcement Administration, they on their action against this, their notice of intent was says, well, they essentially called Kratom opioid.
That's
On
not
multiple
true.
occasions, they referred to it as an opioid.
It's an agonist.
And it's
There's
not.
a difference.
Yeah, it's an opioid receptor agonist, not an opioid, and there is a difference.
And it also doesn't, as opposed to...
Doesn't opioids come from like poppy seed stuff?
Like, you're the DEA.
Yeah,
you should not be making
That's
this.
the biggest part of it, but the other part is that the reason that opioids are so heavily addicted is their interaction with the release of serotonin. So that serotonin release, the euphoria that comes with that, is part of the addiction, part of where addiction stems from for opiates, while kratom doesn't interact with the release of serotonin at all.
Yeah.
Essentially, there is absolutely no good reason to ban this stuff.
Yeah, it's no real good reason, and
It's just mainly
don't they still sell methamphetamine under a pharmaceutical name? I think it's Desoxyn or something like that, to treat ADHD and obesity.
I mean, most ADHD medicines are a form of amphetamine.
Yeah.
I think that's the
I
worst thing.
know Adderall, Ritalin.
I have Vyvanse. Like, I'm looking at it right now. I'm sure it has amphetamines in it.
A few of them, I think Concerta, and there was another one, I think. I actually took it at one point. I can't remember which one it was, but they actually began utilizing antidepressants as well.
Yeah, like I used to take an antidepressant medicine for epilepsy, actually.
Yeah, they have noticed that a lot of like the drugs that the pharmaceutical companies use can be used for other things. So what they do is they take that, rebrand it under a different name, and sell it at a different price than the same exact drug, just because they're using it to treat different disorders and diseases.
Well, I think that's the
It's
worst
just
thing.
like
Is like
recently the whole scandal with the EpiPen. The manufacturing of, I think it's the EpiPen stands for epinephrine pen.
I think so.
Epinephrine is a really cheap to make substance. The reason that they were able to skyrocket it is because of the container of the EpiPen, like how it measures out and how you use it, is patented. So they're the only company that can produce that product. So you can go out, get a syringe, a needle, and a bottle of epinephrine and inject it yourself, and that will cost you, I think, $20 to $30.
And how much is an EpiPen?
Through insurance, and an EpiPen is now $600 for 2, I think.
Wow.
The bottle of epinephrine that you get is enough for multiple dosages. The only thing you'd have to be buying more of would be the syringe, or it would actually only be the needles, because to my knowledge, you can still reuse a syringe.
I could
Go,
imagine.
what were you
I
gonna
may
say?
be
Probably.
wrong.
Oh, I was gonna say it's kind of fucked up how most of the drugs that are illegal have legal counterparts that are sold and prescribed
Yeah.
very loosely. I mean, you can get pain pills and fucking, ADD medication, which is,
Well,
essentially heroin and meth for fucking.
look
I don't
at
think they sell
things.
cocaine anymore.
There's
I'm sure there's some counterpart to it, but
Oh, there has to be.
MAPS, the Multidisciplinary Association for Psychedelic Studies, I think is what it stands for. Their whole basis is finding medical uses for psychedelic drugs like MDMA, LSD.
Yeah, I knew the
mushrooms.
MDMA was recent. And that's something I had really thought about recently, is how much of a shame it is that some of these anti-drug laws have stopped scientific progress in testing and studying these substances in more detail.
Yeah.
And it leaves it up to amateurs, such as some of the people in this chat.
Most of the people.
Yeah.
MAPS, actually, their MDMA study from what they've found so far, they're still doing a lot more research on it and trying to buy a ton more. If you guys are interested in it, look up, anyone watching or watching down the line, look up maps. They have their website, and they're actually taking donations to buy, I think they're trying to raise $1 million so that they can buy a large quantity of MDMA to further their studies.
Aren't they finding
But
it's really helpful with PTSD?
Yes.
And
they're
I just
finding.
want to, if you might want to like link though to the website in the description. So
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say we can add the link into the description, but they're utilizing it mainly. The biggest study that they're doing, like Goat said, is for PTSD. It's and from the small studies that they've done so far, they've found it actually is extremely it's working extremely well.
Now,
Because the thing about MDMA is most of what it does is alters the serotonin release in your brain. So what happens is these people take this, they go into like
not a
a
dissociative
therapy
state.
group and or talk to a therapist and discuss the things that are like the things that trigger their PTSD, stuff like that. Talk about the situations that they think cause the PTSD, and they're finding that after talking about it on MDMA, the way that they look at it after the fact, once they come back down, has been altered, and the severity of the PTSD over time is dropping.
now, if you ask me, you didn't need to do a scientific study like that to prove that MDMA would have helped PTSD victims. But I'm still glad they did it, and I'm still, glad that it's conclusive, and that we actually have it's gone through the scientific method, and I think that's great. But that's what I want to say.
Yeah.
Seems like
Yeah,
common
it's kind of
knowledge.
ridiculous.
So like this,
Yeah.
I just want to ask you, like, what do you think about like the stance that if you take one or more psychedelics within a short period of time, it'll fry your brain?
No basis in reality.
Good.
Yeah.
Like I've heard several different people say that, but like I've never heard like any actual study showing it.
You could get HPPD, hallucinogenic persistent
Yeah.
perception disorder, and that's, I mean, if that's not frying your brain, most of the time it goes away, but it's rare anyway.
Yeah, like what I've
It's
heard,
like
that's really rare and it's far in between the users.
That's
Like,
something
it's
like
like the
I
most
think it's like a
extreme cancers.
1 in a million chance.
Yeah.
that's like the early
but
drug laws shit though, where it's like if you take 4 tabs of acid, you're legally insane.
Yeah, I've heard that too.
Jesus, man. Come on.
the thing is, they could also do studies on that, like essentially just using CAT scans, MRIs, brain scans, stuff like that.
Like something that I actually did see recently about what is it, psilocybin.
Mm-hmm.
They did some sort of study where the quote unquote like expanding of the mind is where it actually dampens brain function.
Yeah, it stops some
But
brain function.
it's not like, of course it's not permanent, but it's just for the trip, and that's what gives like all the feelings of euphoria and
Well, part of you have to think part of the dampening of brain function essentially is going to be it. I think part of it is the fact that it allows you to actually slow down the thoughts that are coming into your mind at the moment, because most of us are constantly thinking about different things all at once. It allows
like,
you
don't
to slow that down and stick with one thing for this amount of time.
yeah, definitely like not attaching yourself to one specific thought. Like,
Yeah, because with my experience
Yeah,
with it, it was like having thousands of different brains pumping thousands of thoughts in my head at once.
yeah, like I don't know, when I did psilocybin, I was more focused on like the visual aspect, but of course there were moments where like thoughts would come to me and that I wouldn't like attach myself to any of them, but they would just come and happen. So It was a fun experience, and I highly recommend it.
None of this is admissible in court. Just saying, it's all. This is all just metaphorical.
We do not advise that you do this if it is illegal in your country.
If it is, however, have fun.
Yeah, if you live in Amsterdam, I think the psychedelic truffles are still legal there.
Okay, it sounds like the left, the right, and the absurd are going to Amsterdam.
We set up a GoFundMe. We'll go fund our trip to Amsterdam.
Fuck yeah, let's do it.
So, I mean, want to move on from the drug topic or keep going?
Yeah.
'Cause, I mean, we can talk
Like,
about sort of like Black
we
Lives
can-
Matter protests.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that's an extremely important topic right now because we've had, I think, either 3 or 4 shootings within the last 2 weeks.
Since I don't know how true this is, but I'm just taking it like from surface value. I read somewhere that 16 people have been killed by police officers since what's his name, Kaepernick, has started his protest.
Yeah, I think
Kaepernick is another topic as well. I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah, we can definitely talk about that really
I just
quickly.
love the whole, Black Lives Matter needs to protest peacefully. Guy sits down for the Pledge of Allegiance. You motherfucker.
Yeah, I've also noticed that people are saying Martin Luther King Jr. wouldn't have heard of this or wouldn't have stood for this, but they never go to the quote, riots are the voice of the unheard.
Exactly.
So.
And then it's hilarious because then you've got more people coming out and saying you're taking that quote out of context. No, it's pretty fucking in context if you look at any of the other quotes that he talked about regarding rioting.
Didn't he become more sympathetic to Malcolm X before he died? Like, he was like, I feel like near the end of his life, he was like, you know what?
I'm not sure.
Well, of course. I feel like I heard that somewhere. I don't know. Could be wrong.
I feel like there was a strong understanding of the fact that were it not for people like Malcolm X fighting on the other side, it was understood that that sort of movement succeeded as well as it did, even though still to this day blacks aren't treated. I mean, even anyone of color isn't treated as a normal fucking human being.
Yeah. I mean, my God, the amount of times I've heard that, like, just either implied or just said directly that the Black Panthers are somehow the African American KKK.
Yeah,
and it's like they say it with such confidence, and it's like, no, you're 100% wrong.
It's like that's one of the most fucking false things that could be said about the Black Panthers, because
it's like they just saw an African American based movement, and they're just like, oh, KKK, it's their equivalent.
Well, it's the whole fucking thing. Like, black people can say black pride, but white people can't say white pride, and it's like, well, there's a very different implication when one says, it's all when a black person says black pride, they're trying to lift themselves and their people up to, the equal footing of,
and it's like,
whatever. Fucking.
If we were in a position where whites were treated like second-class citizens, then it would be under different implications. But the history of the world actually proves otherwise. So
it's like,
hey
gay
guys,
pride.
According to nationalists, whites are under attack, okay?
White genocide.
We need to show them sympathy.
This actually occurred, I think this was today or yesterday, some nationalist was getting very upset because when they Googled white couple.
Oh, yeah. Oh.
I saw that, and I did some Googling of my own, even without the quotes, and I came across just white people. Scroll down a bit, then you would find...
It's like these are the same people that bitch about supposed social justice warriors, and the amount of times I've heard them complain, I'm referring to like white nationalists, is probably far greater than any supposed social justice warrior, because they never stop bitching and moaning about stupid shit.
Yeah, like
You never
just
stop bitching and moaning about social justice warriors.
Yeah.
like the
You know how many
most like,
times I've literally, had a debate with someone and I've just pointed out the fact that they're incorrect and I've got told that I was triggered.
oh yeah,
Lol, triggered SJW cuck.
Yeah.
like this actually bothers me because before I actually got before the big social justice thing, I mean, it was probably always a big thing, but before the whole anti quote unquote regressive thing came around, I was actually really good friends with this kid. And when that started happening, he became an anti-feminist, and a bunch of other stupid shit, anti-regressive. I'm pretty sure he's fucking alt-right now, and I don't even talk to this kid anymore. It breaks my heart.
Maybe I thought an interesting topic might be actually the rise of the alt-right and the fall of traditional conservatism.
Well,
Beyond traditional
what's
conservatism.
Speaking of fucking alt-right, let's talk about what's his name, Milo
Yiannopoulos.
Oh, fucking Milo
Yeah.
Yiannopoulos.
Yeah, I remember reading something where he said, "We are the counterculture. We're the new punk," and that made me want to fucking scream.
Punk hate stands against everything you believe in.
Man,
yes,
that's the thing.
You're not
banning him from Twitter wasn't enough, man.
You're not a new counterculture. Supporting
it's like when Paul Ryan said his favorite band was Rage Against the Machine.
It's exactly the same thing.
It's fucking ridiculous, and I mean, literally, obeying authority is not fucking punk.
It's literally, it's like fucking Nazi punks, man. It's literally entirely counter to the entire idea.
That also goes out to Nazi black metal too.
Oh, Jesus Christ, that's a thing.
See,
Nazi black metal
that's
is a thing.
Even that makes more sense than Nazi punk, though.
See, that's why I love my job. One of my coworkers is a hardcore punk. He's been that way for forever, loves punk music, and he told me all these stories about when he used to go to shows when he was a teenager. Fucking Nazis there and would kick the shit out of them.
So honestly, what is worse, traditional conservatism or the alt-right?
Oh, the alt-right, hands down.
Yeah, alt-right, man.
I don't know.
Mainly because
traditionalism
they're just gigantic.
Because let me tell you,
no.
In the past few days, I created a fake Instagram. It was a satirical conservative account, and I made my own posts. Adam, you've seen some of them.
Yeah.
It was you couldn't tell the difference between me being satirical and an actual post.
I can vouch for this. I actually could not tell the difference. It was that.
Well, the point here is that after 2 days, I had to stop posting because no matter how hard I tried to be satirical, I could not match their actual stupidity. I tried, and I couldn't do it.
You want to know why?
Didn't you make a post on iFunny about that, where you had 4 quotes, and it was
people couldn't tell the difference.
Yeah, it's because Trump is a candidate.
No. You know what makes the alt-right worse than traditional conservatives? Is traditional conservatives don't claim to be anarchists.
That's true.
They don't sit there and claim. I mean, they say they're all about freedom, but that's
one can claim for freedom, but
because what the hell happened to ANCAPs?
You know what? Now I would respect any ANCAP that is still an ANCAP and not a fucking alt-righter.
I don't know if it's just me, but literally the alt-right, I think it's just a new moniker for third position.
I do too.
That's what the third position was, is that we're an alternative to the left and the right. And now they've just acknowledged that they're fucking rightists, but we're an alternative to the right.
I mean, if you notice these things about fascist movements in the past, it's always that they have glorified parts of their history that have gone by. And that's what we're seeing now with the alt-right.
Man, you know the worst thing was
America
that video?
Great again.
Was that video where, who was it, Life, Love, and Anarchy or some shit like that? Where he was fascism is the necessary and moral response to communism. And this guy claims to be a fucking ANCAP. It's Man.
He also said Maoism instead of Maoism.
Maoism.
No,
That's my favorite philosophy.
A Maoist.
It revolves around horses saying nay.
look, I know
Projected
that.
Sandwich War.
I know Love, Life, and Anarchy has a YouTube series going around the philosophy of Bioshock, the philosophy of X, and
I started to play Bioshock, by the way. Really great game.
yeah, it's a good game.
Fantastic.
It's a great game.
Great representation of anarcho-capitalism in practice, just saying.
I mean, if you look at the city of Rapture, it is a hellhole.
I was gonna
Yeah,
say,
like-
did we forget about?
Just speaking of ANCAPs,
Don't you
Also,
Beth.
real quick, is we mentioned Trump a bit ago alongside fascism. That's not to say that Donald Trump is a literal fascist.
he just happens to have a fascist following.
Yeah,
Yes.
and it's like there is some
lot of
parallels
similarity.
between
Yeah,
Well, the thing
fascism.
I say about
and
that is
Trump's
like,
rhetoric.
right. It's not that Trump himself is a fascist or even really, racist or sexist, but the things he says caters to those people, and those people are his supporters.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Trump might not be racist, but if you're racist, you're probably a Trump supporter.
Yeah, and I actually had a friend tell me that feminism was a conspiracy theory and that women were happy in the 1950s and 60s, and
Yeah,
Women were happier when you could beat them. I mean, come on, obviously.
I was happier when I could beat my wife with a fucking broomstick.
Yeah, I've been noticing more often a lot of like the male, like just bitchy ass males that complain about feminism and friend zones and stuff like that. And I'm just like,
The friend zone doesn't exist.
it doesn't. You're just a bitch, and she doesn't want to fucking date you. It's not a zone. It's the
Yeah,
fact
like-
that she has a right to choose that she doesn't want to fucking date you.
That's the thing, is it's a weird like entitlement thing where it's like, oh, but I was nice to you. It's like being nice to a
Yeah,
girl
like-
doesn't mean she has to blow you. It's like, come on, man.
Yeah, that goes with it. Like, it's an entitlement thing. Where
I mean,
they think
Eric
that they
would blow any nice dude, but that's a different
I
story.
would blow Eric. I'm just saying.
like it is an entitlement thing though. Like they think that they're entitled to somebody because they were nice to them, and I was nice to you. Why won't you fuck me, or why won't you date me? Like, you're not entitled to a relationship with someone just because you were nice to them.
Exactly.
Also, I'd just like to say, if you're a men's rights activist and you defend fucking Brock Turner, you should kill yourself.
Not like
Yeah,
seriously, dude.
if anyone shot
Yeah,
Brock Turner,
not like just to be shocking. I mean, actually, turn the car on, hang out in the garage for a couple hours, fucking hang yourself, just
Make
borrow
yourself
a
a sandwich
gun.
before him. Like,
Yeah, just go crazy. I mean, I don't care how you do it. Drown yourself in a bathtub. Be creative. You can fucking jump out of an airplane. Just end your life, please.
like I saw this picture. It said, "What could be worse than 9/11? The men's rights movement."
You know what? If men's rights activists actually focused on the couple of areas where men are actually in a less privileged position, that would be okay. But all they do is bitch about feminists.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, there's nothing actually productive about it.
Oh fuck! That reminded me. How about MGTOW? MGTOW.
Isn't our favorite libertarian in MGTOW?
Wait, who's our favorite libertarian?
I'm pretty sure Rocking Mystery is a MGTOW. Even though he's married.
Here's the damn thing about MGTOW. If you're gonna go your own way, then why the hell have none of them actually gone their own? Like what? When I think going your own way, I think of moving away from society. I think of like completely isolating yourself from the world. Maybe I've got the wrong definition, but bitching about feminism on the internet does not seem to be going your own way.
I mean, maybe they could all get together, buy an island, and then
Have you ever actually seen any of the men's rights movement meetups. Like from the videos that I've seen of them meeting up, they're all like single dudes in their fucking 40s, bitching about feminism. That's at least what I've seen.
I mean, people that I've seen that have been bitching about feminism lately, I feel like will be single into their 40s and on. So
Yeah, like
I mean, if you can bitch about the friend zone all you want, but that's not going to get you out of the supposed friend zone. I mean,
exactly.
come on.
It's more
It just-
likely to actually get you deeper into this non-existent zone.
Right, if you're
Right.
like,
You
you're
bitch
hanging out
about
with a
it.
girl and you're like, man, fucking women have too many rights in our society. They'll just probably look at you and be like, man, I will never fuck you.
Yeah, like
I'll go scissor this chicken road in front of you before I fuck you. And
Or
I'm
get
not
some
even a
big black
lesbian.
dude to fuck me while you watch. You fucking...
get cucked.
Oh, yeah, I actually have
You
a theory.
fucking cuck.
I have a theory that everyone who unironically uses the word cuck is actually cucked.
They like I don't know.
Well,
They focus on. I don't know. Go on, Cole.
I will say that there's two different sides to that story. Ironically use the word cuck, and there's the people that use the word it means.
Like, what was his name? Davis Rooney. He made an entire fucking video about cuckoldry and complaining about it.
Like the fetish, the actual fetish.
Like just cuckoldry in our society, basically.
Okay.
You're like basically his entire argument from the 5 minutes that I watched. 5 minutes. I mean, a minute and a half. But he was basically complaining that we're being conditioned to be cucks. Is basically what he was saying.
Was Alex Jones in that episode too?
No. And Davis Rooney also tried making a fucking movie with somebody else about.
I can't remember his name.
Jordan Owens or something.
That was it, yeah.
And they're like about fucking Anita Sarkeesian, and I think only like 6 people showed up to the thing.
Because nobody gives that big of. No one gives that. No one cares
Nobody
about
like
Anita Sarkeesian.
legitimately in feminist circles, no one gives a shit about Anita Sarkeesian. Like she's just a person who has a fucking outlet who got attention from anti-feminists. Other than that, she's really contributed nothing but being a media critic.
Yeah.
Nobody takes her seriously, but the people who hate her.
I've never heard a feminist actually quote Anita Sarkeesian.
Neither have I.
Seriously?
Like
I've never once heard it like, oh, you know what? She's really doing a lot for our movement. Never once have I heard that.
And
how about like Simone de Beauvoir? Is that her? Is that who? I think I got the name right.
the feminist who was with Jean-Paul Sartre.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't believe I've ever seen a critique of her by some anti-feminist movement. Because
they don't actually have an education.
They don't actually care about academic feminism or anything. They just want to bitch about internet feminists.
They're not even
like
I wouldn't even classify them as internet feminists. They're just people that love attention, want to utilize the movement for their own personal gain.
Literally people who have internet access.
Yeah, it's just people abusing the fact that there's such an open availability to this viewership. They're just people that see a movement and want to monopolize on it.
Like, also, why do anti-feminists treat what's her name, like the Big Red, Anita Sarkeesian, and any other quote-unquote feminist as like representatives of feminist thought, even though they're kind of irrelevant?
Because they can't critique people like Emma Goldman.
Like, they're only relevant to anti-feminists, and they just say, haha, are you triggered, Big Red, haha, like, it's fucking annoying. And if you're actually going to try and critique feminism and stuff that feminist movements do, don't bring up Anita Sarkeesian. Don't bring up being triggered or Age of Shitlords or shit like that. It's
Safe
just,
spaces. All that shit. All right, now I'm
Okay,
gonna.
wait a second.
I can understand. Yeah, I actually knew someone who was bitching about safe spaces recently, and I completely agree with them too.
the
A
thing,
safe
like,
space is meant to be a place to go
Think
when
about
you
a
feel
safe space
some
like a
sort
battered
of.
women's shelter.
Exactly.
It's
It's a
it's
place.
there.
It's a place of protection.
like,
Right. It's.
like
I mean, fundamentally, I don't really see the problem with it.
they're
To
not
be honest.
sheltering themselves from the outside world. Like people, they have designated spaces for this. Once they go back like out of that space, they're being exposed to the outside world. It's not like they're sheltering themselves from it, getting into an echo chamber.
I
A post I
mean,
just.
where I live, there's actually a massive quantity of safe spaces. I see the signs all over town,
Yeah.
The
and
one
I
of
think it's a great thing.
a post I just made. I think Adam, you've seen it. It was says, if you're one of those quote, if my views offend you, good type of people, the ones who quote just like to piss people off, there's a good chance that you're just a dumbass who interprets people repeatedly correcting you as being offended by you. People don't get pissed at you because you're offensive. People get pissed at you because you are probably really fucking stupid.
And they have to. Yeah, I
Yeah,
agree with that.
I saw that one, and yeah, I definitely agree with it. I mean, it's why I don't spend that much time anymore arguing with people over the views that I hold, because I can't. The people that I can convince about veganism, super fucking easy. There's nothing to worry about there. The people that I can't convince, they won't listen to a logical argument.
Yeah, I'm like,
I actually got into an argument today with someone on Facebook. I shared some video of a vegan breakfast sandwich with vegan sausage, vegan egg, and hash browns on it. And the response was, well, what's so bad about laying egg? About like chickens that lay eggs? Well, the thing about chickens that lay eggs, these companies hatch some of them because they understand that chickens can only lay eggs for so long. The issue is when you hatch a fucking male, it goes into a grinder with every single other fucking male. And I shared that with them, and their response was, my chickens in my backyard are laying eggs, and they're not doing it by force. And I'm like, sitting here thinking to myself, I'm like, shit. I didn't know Foster Farms was operated out of your backyard.
yeah, like,
It's like, how fucking hard is it to do such an illogical argument?
yeah, that's actually.
Because, I mean, the same applies to so many other topics. It applies to politics, it applies to feminist arguments, it applies to racial arguments, it applies to all of this. Most people don't utilize logic, fact. It's just fallacious
Yeah,
arguments.
I was on a Skype call with Connor and a few other people last night, and we were saying that formal logic should be taught in kindergarten, so we have a less stupid society and people who can actually form arguments well. It's something
Teaching
I do,
logic in school, I think, would be quite nice.
but it's something I do want to talk about is North Korea.
The internet leaks or whatever.
Yeah, like the internet leaks and just like I'm sure like from what I heard they had like a huge disaster where they were asking for outside help.
That's true. That's a rarity for them to do that.
Yeah, and I just wanted to get your guys' opinions on it.
I guess with the whole internet thing, I mean, I'm not really surprised that they only had some 20-some websites.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to think the censorship in country to be insane. So I don't. It's not really that shocking that they have such a limited amount of websites because, I mean, they look at their leaders
What's up?
as gods.
Yeah.
So,
Um.
and then, but the fact that they actually asked for help is kind of shocking.
Yeah. Like. What would you have to say about the Marxists who say we need to stand with North Korea against, like, we need to stand with North Korea for anti-imperialism reasons?
Well, wait, real quick. Did any country actually give support to the DPRK after this supposed disaster? Or not supposed, this disaster? It was a flood, right?
I think so. Yeah,
Okay.
I wasn't sure if it was a flood or a storm, but I actually don't know. But I do want to get your guys' opinions on Marxists or any anti-imperialist who says we need to support North Korea for anti-imperialist reasons.
Sorry about that, by the way.
Yeah, it's fine.
But I've seen that, with a lot of them. Jason Unruh immediately comes to mind.
Yeah. It's, from what I've seen, it seems to be more prominent among Marxist-Leninists than Maoists.
The biggest concern I have here is that if you say we need to support the North Korean people, I think that's a lot more understandable than saying you need to support essentially the Kim dynasty that they have over there.
Yeah, I noticed that at least a lot of Marxist-Leninists tend to lend their support to any group that is, quote-unquote, fighting imperialism.
Yeah, I mean,
red
there's some
flags,
fringe
they're
ones that
heroes.
have supported ISIS, haven't they?
I'm sure there have been, there.
I mean, Iran. You get stuff like that too. Support for
Assad.
Iran. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I was gonna say it's just like the capitalists that support Assad to his
Pinochet. There's a lot of hell, I've even seen ANCAP support people like Pinochet.
Pinochet and capitalists.
Yeah.
Fucking Christ. There was actually an ANCAP that was in a group chat with me. For the past maybe 3 or 4 months, we saw him go from an ANCAP to a alt-right Pinochet capitalist.
Was what was his name, like Jeff or something?
Yeah, Jeff.
Okay, yeah. By the way, we're at the 52-minute mark.
Also, there were
Yeah.
always talk about I think it was Milton Friedman and some of the people that he worked with that assisted Pinochet. So
Yeah.
it's not that uncommon for capitalists, libertarians, and ANCAPs to support governments like Pinochet's, even though they were extremely tyrannical. I mean, the freedom is extremely lacking, so it kind of goes against everything they believe in.
I've
But
never
free
heard
markets.
an ANCAP talk about Guatemala.
They just say that I'm sure capitalists have their reasons for not bringing it up, but it says that's not capitalism, that's X.
Well, there's actually footage of Milton Friedman discussing the fact that he personally had no association with Pinochet, but
didn't he say that they're willing to do great stuff, like they will take a market approach?
No. He also he praised what Pinochet was doing minus the whole killing part.
He basically said it was libertarian because they took a market approach.
Is that what he said?
I mean, it was more like he was like, well, authoritarian systems always work from the top down, but the market's from the bottom up. So really,
yeah,
it was like,
they're willing to take a bottom up approach. Yeah, I remember saying that.
But he also stated that there were advisors from the U.S. that went in there to help him.
This whole thing reminds me.
He personally didn't do it.
It reminds me of I think it was something that Zizek had mentioned, where where when we talk about global capitalism, we have to also talk about countries like the DPRK, countries like Venezuela, countries like Cuba, because despite them taking, well, I wouldn't even consider Venezuela a fully socialist country at all, but for, let's say Cuba and the DPRK, you have to still, when you're talking of global capitalism, they're a part of global capitalism still.
Yeah.
And I thought that was an interesting point.
Speaking of which, I just want to bring this back to ANCAP really quick. Have any of you ever actually like read any ANCAPs like answering questions to them, or just anything like that, like frequently asked questions?
I've seen a few, like, why?
Because there's a website that has an ANCAP FAQ, and I wanted to talk about it sometime.
Yeah, we can definitely do that.
I wish Eric was here because
he could
be massively helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If he still considers himself an ANCAP, because I don't know if he even does anymore.
From what I've talked to Eric about, he's more like AWA, so.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's also, I think we should talk about all of the current, like, protests, riots, stuff like that going on currently. I mean,
yeah, we can. What is your guys' opinion on the riots?
Charlotte's, I think, one of the biggest ones right now, and I think what is happening here should be classified as protest, not riots, due to the fact that most of what has actually occurred here in the last couple of days, the last 2 days, were actually nonviolent protests. It was just like one of the first days before the curfew was enacted that the what was classified as riots were happening. And part of that is due to opportunists. Most of the people that they've found that were actually committing these acts of rioting, breaking windows, looting, things like that, were actually not even from North Carolina. There's actually been a massive problem, and police are now looking for people with out-of-state tags, especially at night, that are in the city, due to the fact that a lot of the people that were rioting, looting, breaking windows, stuff like that, were out-of-staters.
Which kind of makes sense.
That brings me to
there's shit going on.
That brings me to another claim that's often thrown around. What do you guys have to say to the Black Lives Matter being a terrorist organization?
I don't think it is at all. Most of what.
Yeah, because I've heard
the black rights, like, the issue is they're doing the same thing like we were talking about with feminists earlier. They're taking.
Oh, you know what? That's one thing I love.
People from the Black Rights Movement or Black Lives Matter movement and using those opportunists to exemplify every single member.
Yeah, like
when in actuality, there's so many people that are just out in the streets.
What I've
seen
is I've heard this a few times claimed that supposedly Russia and Putin have labeled them as a terrorist organization, and that is not based in reality. I've checked the sources. I believe the one comes from Your Newswire, and the headline reads, Russia put Black Lives Matter on official, quote, terror list. And then the very first sentence in the article reads, Russia are planning to put Black Lives Matter on their terror list, officially recognizing the group as a racist terrorist organization. They didn't provide any sources in their own first sentence of the article, pretty much. I mean, the title is basically clickbait.
Yeah. From what I've
planning
read,
is the big word.
The actual Black Lives Matter spokesmen have denounced any violent activity.
I mean, plus it's not even like a big, like a unified group exactly.
Right. That's one thing I love always seeing is if you're on for example, Alex Jones' YouTube channel or whatever, you'll hear like, oh, well, Black Lives Matter key figure said so and so. And it's like, there isn't a key figure. It's like there are people who are talked about, sort of, but for the most part, it's not a very organized.
Yeah, it's like there were founders to it, but it has the same problem Anonymous has, is that they're not organized well enough to be like an actual quote unquote terrorist group, since they're
And that's
very
the other thing you hear.
deorganized and
A network.
Have you
Yeah.
heard that shit about like George Soros giving him $200 million or some shit like that?
I have.
Where it's like, okay, who are they giving? It's not like they have a headquarters that you could send a check to. It's
Like,
they're a bunch of people putting hashtags on fucking Instagram pictures.
yeah.
So we have hit. Let me check now. We're at the 1 hour mark, so we should probably wrap it up soon if that's cool with you guys.
Yeah, and if you want to wrap it up, like, I mean, this is a reunion episode. If you guys want to carry on, it's fine with me. But whatever.
Yeah, I mean, we can start dwindling it
Next
down.
week,
just get out the like last few points that we want to make, and then
yeah.
basically next week we'll be back to normal, where we'll have some actual topics ready to discuss.
Yeah.
Exactly.
In more
I don't know,
detail.
I kind of like the loose.
This was good though. I did like it.
Yeah.
I think
And
we
I
need to
think
get a couple
it'll-
of general ideas and then just kind of go on. Yeah, that's the way to do
I
it.
think it'll really help. But yeah, we can discuss this in a little bit. But yeah, I think one of the biggest things is we've got, as someone who is not technically a person of color, I can understand that there's still systemic racism in this country. One of the things I think we didn't touch on that would have been a great topic was the Dakota Access Pipeline too.
That's very true.
Yeah.
Want to cover that real quick and then we'll wrap it up?
Yeah. Let's finish this up really quick with the Black Lives Matter movement. I think what the issue, I was reading a great article when the Colin Kaepernick situation came out. It was a free writer for Rolling Stone, and the closing argument of the article that she wrote was essentially that it's not just to what Kaepernick was doing, but to the Black Lives movement, Black Lives Matter movement in general, is that people aren't angry, perturbed, or scared because of what these people are doing. They're scared because they're exposing the fact of this systemic inequality and this systemic racism that this country still endures. I mean, we have to
You know what the
think
thing is, though?
it's roughly 50 years
Yeah,
since the
that's something
United States has been desegregated.
Yeah, that's something I want to bring up.
That's not a long time.
This black people were given
took
rights right around, like, right after my father was born. So literally in his generation, desegregation happened.
And we have to think, take that, they weren't given rights until then. Think about how long it was from them getting rights to the abolishing of slavery.
Like, they abolished slavery, what, like almost 150 years ago?
It was what, like 1870? Yeah, I'm not.
Like,
So it took them about years to
gain, quote
gain
unquote,
rights.
false citizenship.
And we want to say, biggest things I hear from ill-informed people is slavery is gone. What are you complaining about? When they don't understand that people of color are still years behind us at the very least in terms of equality. That's not something that happens 50 years ago. We decided to actually treat them
Yeah,
I
And
won't
people
even
like to
say
act like
we.
50
I'd
years
say
ago doesn't affect people now.
a decent number of people decided to treat them as equals. I don't even want to say majority, just because of the fact that we don't actually know if it is the majority. There's so many people that still have these racist undertones, even people that aren't willing to accept it or still hold these racist undertones.
yeah,
And I
that is
think
true.
that's the main thing Black Lives Matter shows is that just that the reaction to the phrase Black Lives Matter has been so, you know,
Like,
explosive, I guess you could
yeah,
call it.
like people say like Black Lives Matter. What about all lives matter? Like they're kind of missing the point of the phrase.
Well, it's the same thing like saying white pride versus saying black pride.
Yeah,
It's
Well, it's the same. It's also the same thing. I love the equation of Black Lives Matter to feminism because people make the same sort of assumptions about feminism that they do about Black Lives Matter, that it's not about equality, that it's about furthering one's own group, be it feminists or Black Lives Matter. When what they're not understanding is that by focusing on furthering this one group, it's not pushing this group ahead of another group. It's furthering this group to become equal.
yeah,
With feminism, it's furthering women to become equal to men because we don't treat women like that. With Black Lives Matter, it's furthering furthering how people of color are treated.
and I think that's one thing that
And
is missed a lot is legal and societal equality are two very different things.
yes. That's something I do bring up a lot. Is that legal equality does not equate to social equality. Just because something is put in law doesn't mean people are suddenly going to say, "Well, you're equal. What do you have to complain about? You're equal in the eyes of the law, not in the eyes of society."
even then, there's still, I mean, we can look at the law and see the
Yeah, it's
biases
actually
that.
very arguable to whether people are equal under the law.
It's just not blatantly worded as such. You know, it's all kind of like no more
most of
implied.
what most of it is most of what people assume is all, or most of what people say about equality is all based on assumptions, just due to the fact that we have laws in place that are supposed to enforce equality, but they don't actually do that.
Yeah, like
They, it's just like the veterans that have been talking about supporting Kaepernick because they understand forced respect is not actual respect.
It's like saying a lot of Germans supported Hitler.
Forced equality isn't true equality.
yeah.
All right.
But I think we did good on that. Let's cover the Dakota Access Pipeline very quickly.
When you're sicking dogs on women and children, I don't care what you're for, you're fucking wrong.
Yeah.
That's essentially my point.
Well, and the thing is, I definitely like what the people out there are doing, especially not classifying themselves as protesters, but because they're not, their intention isn't to protest, but to not only protect their own sacred ground that we've already been desecrating for years, like hundreds of years.
But to protect their water supply.
It's not, well, that's the thing. It's not even to just protect their water supply. They're standing up for people that are just like descendants of people that have oppressed them to protect our water supply too. I mean,
Yeah.
no matter how we look at it, most of the people that live in this country are in some way related to people that have oppressed Native Americans. I mean, that
I'm related
is
to Andrew
essentially
Jackson.
country was built on the oppression of the Native Americans. And to think that these people are not only standing up for the protection of their water, but our water as well, I think is huge.
Yeah.
Because most people don't understand what they're doing by attempting to protect this. And the fucked up situation is the fact that the federal government only placed and they've been saying this, but it's not 100% true. The radius isn't actually as large as they say it is. But the discussed radius that these companies can not work with and not work in 20 miles in either direction from a specific point. So it is only a 40-mile radius. Or a 40-mile diameter. It's a 20-mile radius from the center point. So what he has decided to do is begin working outside of that 20-mile radius, and their end goal is looking at the federal government saying, well, we built this and we built this. This is all we have to do. So are you going to let us do it or what? Because if not, we're going to ask you for a shit ton of money for our work.
Yeah.
And the amazing part is that these tribes that are doing this and these people that are coming out to support these tribes, this is, I think, it's somewhere between 5 to 7 oil pipelines that have been stopped so far. So if things continue going in the protesters' way, it would be amazing. But as of right now, it doesn't look like that's how it's going.
Well, I think what this movement kind of showed is, there's a lot of support for these people, and if, the government decides to fuck them over in favor of the oil companies, I think there's going to be a lot of response to that.
And I don't know about you guys, but I feel the oil spill in Alabama should have raised much more awareness for that, because one, it shows us our dependency on, in where I live in the South, it's been showing that we have an extreme dependency on it. We've had people freaking out, hoarding gasoline, things like that due to the shortage. I know Adam also lives in the South. I don't know if you guys get the oil from that pipeline as well.
I'm actually not sure, but I'll have to look into that.
We've had a massive shortage, and we've had tons of people. We've had gas stations been running out of gas, things like that. And it's showing us how dependent we are on this finite substance. And
that's something people have been talking about for years, is the fact that we only have so much oil and we have our whole fucking world based on it right now.
It's just like here in North Carolina, we have a massive dependency on coal, and I think we are one of the few states that still has this massive reliance on coal, but we also are one of the, environmentally speaking, we are one of the worst states. We have this massive reliance on coal, massive reliance on oil. We are one of the biggest producers of pork, solution to to pig waste is to utilize, funnel it into a system and spray it out of sprinklers over massive expanses of land as fertilizer, but it's putting this fecal matter into the air. So most of these sprinklers that these farmers that have pork utilize and feed off to other farms, spraying upwards of 20 feet in the air, and we're putting all of that fecal matter into our own air on top of all of the excess from coal, stuff like that. North Carolina has not only polluted our water with agricultural waste, it's also polluted it with coal ash. I mean, it's just insane how we as people treat this earth just because we have this reliance on these substances.
I'm just waiting for you to say Ted Kaczynski was right, and you're going to go out into the woods and start making mail bombs. If you do say that, I'll get my bag. We'll go.
I mean, we can start a GoFundMe page for that.
Fuck yeah, let's do it. Okay, we're going to start two GoFundMes after this episode. One, so we can all go to Amsterdam, and one to free Ted Kaczynski. That's the plan.
That's actually something. I can't remember the specific name of the magazine, but it's an anarchist magazine. They did an interview with Ted Kaczynski that I read, and it was actually really interesting.
I mean, I've always wanted to. He's still alive, so I've always wanted to actually.
Okay, let's see if we can go get an interview with him.
I think he holds some interesting views, but
I definitely don't agree with all of his views, but
I think shit, I lost it.
Hey, I mean, to just go out
I think we definitely
live in a
need
shack, that's my goal, man.
Okay, Matt, we still need a plan for
definitely.
that trip.
I know. I'm very serious about it.
One of my things is actually, I really think it would be an interesting concept to take a group of like-minded individuals and essentially get together to buy a massive plot of land and use said plot of land as a beginning to establishing a collective.
I mean, that sounds perfect. I would drop everything in a second to get out of this.
I'd be down to do that if I wasn't afraid of Waco 2.0.
Yeah.
I mean, I personally, I'd say beliefs. I mean, if someone wants to invade something like that, which
I think
it
that would be
wouldn't
the
be
thing
harming
to do,
any.
is like set it up so if that does happen, it's like have like, I guess, I don't know how you would do that, but you have it so it's like anyone who knows have like a website dedicated to it where you can like prove that there's not anything there that would give reason to
shoot it up.
You need to plan for that kind of shit because, as history shows, if you want to go and do something that's not state sanctioned, you're probably going to get fucking firebombed.
All right, this is great, but I think this is after show thoughts.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Probably.
But all right. Yeah, all right.
But look for the GoFundMes. We'll set those up.
All right. Well, it was wonderful to be back, guys. We look forward to on who's coming back as a former viewer. Anyone that's a new that you are coming to us to sit here and listen to us ramble on what the hell we want to talk about. And
do we have an email for this?
You guys,
we should like see if we can get people on here.
If you guys do have any questions, we will. Is always an option, but on top of that, just at some point, so you guys can make your comments while you watch it. On top of that, we can always link our emails, send us anything you any topics, any questions,
Whoa.
inquiries about a few things this episode. We're setting up a guest on the website for the Multidisciplinary Association for Staff. Go ahead and link it. And then I think we should also link in a few other things, but we will definitely add those in there. And like always, make sure to like, share, subscribe. And tell your friends, tell your mom, tell your grandma.
If you can get your mom and your grandma to watch this podcast, I will sign
Tell that
something
random
and send it
hobo
to
down
you.
the street that for some reason owns a smartphone.
Yeah, we'll give you free cookies.
I will personally send you cookies